Once upon a time, politics was a passion, something after your heart, which you wanted to pursue irrespective of the considerations of head. Invariably, it was about solving problems, easing the life, and improving lots of others. Though often your own lot, life, and problems were allied to those of others and would benefit, fighting for your own self was not deemed a valid motivation for politics. It was selfish and mean to use others or their cause to solve your own problems, ease your own life, and improve your own lot. In fact, that was what the masters were doing and what you were up against. The masters, then, were the lords of the realm. They believed that people, the commoners, were their chattel to be used as they wished. Though people generally agreed, well meaning ones disagreed. They wanted the masters to care, some passionately so, and resisted the status quo. They fought for care and concern, come what may, and much did come their way. Collaring, torture, dungeons. Yes, the cause of the care was not easily accepted. To be sure, a master here was less violent, another there saw the truth and signed a charter of guarantees, but the most took every called care as an affront to their authority and suppressed it, often violently. Though a few of the masterly were hereditary and invoked a divine right to rule, most had risen from the ranks, trampled over the divine ones, and proffered their claims of divine sanction. That was why they had genealogies written to sugarcoat the right of might to override the calls to care for all. Stockholm Syndrome, the tendency to justify the oppressing master, is a recent discovery. Fate, the dispensation divine, was the degree that made every oppression a just desertus for the suppressed by summoning an imaginary soul, and the life, with all its vile attendances, were touted as the supposed tyrannies of that spirit. Betimes it was proffered as a cleansing of the eternal spirit, with promise of becoming the master in due course. That was how poor were said would inherit kingdoms. The most intriguing feature here is that while the prevailing religions justified the sway of whoever held the leash, the calls to care and concern themselves erected as new religious dispensation, anchored to the same divine head, with the alteration that they were now interpreted as a perpetual difference. Jesus, a Jew, prayed to the same Lord, revered the same icons, but attributed to them a benign inclination, adding that evil intents had suppressed that intent being revealed. Half a century later, another prophet came with the message, claiming that the earlier one had become untrue for being polluted with changed and additions, and that he now brought the original caring intent of the Rahim, the merciful, and people, growling under oppressions of the earlier dispensation, gladly accepted the new Savior. For the past millennium and a half, the two cares have been cornering the humans all over the world. These religions of care have been sacking cities, looting the residents, and killing others in their crusade to care for their respective lords and force their writs upon every dissenting voice. Not unoften, those dissenters arise within their own ranks, but that does not stop the righteous ones. That righteous wrath sees every objection as an apostasy to be annihilated. Arisen of the Semitic fervor, those furies have been flogging the whole world to make it conform to their respective ideations. So intoxicated are they on their promise of the Lord, having talked to them alone, that they never tarry to talk to their own selves, much less to their targets. Often it is the fear that they would be talked out of their toilsome proclivities, and that would hinder the task of tackling the pagans here, trundling the infidel there, and keeping their own flocks on track. Not that the pagans were much better, or the infidels entirely lacking the penchant to prevail over rival visions, but they did so with far less intolerance, and never formed into organized syndicates in the name of their lords. As it is, organizations tend to live for themselves. Their trampling every dissent becomes a legitimate response, and the objective is pursued with righteous zeal. Once accepted, that righteousness easily becomes a license to ride roughshod over all who would not conform to the chosen ideation of the zealot. All that would not agree is to be reviled in word and shattered in deed. That shattersome sway extends to symbols, insignias, invocations, and all other manifestations of non-conformist, ideational, or physical, animate or inanimate. Only much later and very grudgingly the secular came to be accepted as a distinction. Else the respective religions had appropriated all activities that humans in habitation undertook. With almighty ideation at its base, the organization subsumed the kingship, the law, as well as the custom. Everything that did not fit the scheme was an anathema. Only the tenets that the ideation of the particular organization, called religion, believed in held prevailed, only the practices assumed by it were allowed, and only the behaviors that conformed to the two were acceptable. The rest were canned, a betrayal, seen as a straying away, and treated as apostasy. While the modes of dealing with incaltrances may have varied in different religions, there was little doubt about it being denounced. Often that variation was a reflection of the sway getting as vehement as the power of the religion could afford. Dissenters would be flogged, banished, killed outrightly, or burned at stake alive. Khalifa of Baghdad, ruling for the religion prevailing, decreed Mansur to be hanged, his body burned, and ashes thrown into Euphrates, hoping to remove every trace of the apostasy. Half a century later, the Cardinal King Pope of France had Joan of Arc burnt at stake, leaving the ashes to be carried away wherever the trampling feet went. Centuries later, the pontiff of the time, though not taking blame, has reversed the guilt of Joan and turned her into the saint. Mansur is yet to be exonerated and may never get absolved since the office of Khalifa no longer exists. That preoccupation of the lordly zeal plunged the world in a darkness that has lasted for at least a millennium. Then it grew pitch dark. The preoccupation grew atrocious. It was also vastly unequal. Now the people, how so Stockholmed they be, how so religiously indoctrinated, could not ignore the horror that was all around. The world, the life, the humans living it, all cried for a change. The clamor to enlarge the space for the secular grew. Of course, the interests resisted. The sway of religion was not ready to yield and did so only reluctantly. Even now, it has not given way entirely. Religion, the king master, persists both in the greatest democracy and the mother of democracy. It still rules two-thirds of the globe, if not more, and religion continues to sway most of the people here, there, and everywhere. Now, religion is not only anchored to lords. A carer of the people who called religion the opium of masses asked the petty ones to unite and rise and shatter all the insignias of exploitation. Laudable as the call was, it did not see itself becoming akin to religion. Then the call got organized, and like the organized syndicates called religion, grew self-righteous and clangorsome. Today, offshoots of the ideation are more zealous than any religion ever was. Yet this call did make the earlier risen clamors for freedom more humane. Equality was accepted, openness was encouraged, and the world appeared to be on a path of freedom from evil. And then came the undoing. Identity was accepted as a valid assumption and did inform much of the struggles of freedom. But then the identity grew to be a logical force. On one hand, it has been whittled down to more and more narrow nooks, and on the other has got strangely cultish. How so disastrous Brexit proved to be, none is ready to denounce its definitional limitations. Make America Great has granted its bigots another term at the helm without any clue as to what that would end in. Visions are getting narrowed down and views are looking away from the larger picture. And that is a scary scenario for the care and concern for humans. Even as the scientists tell that people from all the regions and races have originated from a single milieu in a forsaken nook of Africa, the clamor for exclusivism is only growing. Instead of seeing the absolutisms ruling more than half the globe out, today even the open societies are closing not only the physical borders but also the mental horizons. In that darkness, it is only the care and concern for the humans that would suffer. Will the new year 2025 care? Happy New Year.